With the cancellation of PvE, Overwatch seems to have entered a new phase with a focus on PvP, and that might actually be for the best. Let's have a look. In the last few weeks, the Overwatch development team has been stacking some wins, with the latest being Aaron Keller's developer update video, which is kind of bittersweet, since last week we also got some new evidence that PvE was actually cancelled. I made a whole separate video on that topic, and since I published that video, Bloomberg learned that the team was told that they will not be continuing with the development of PvE content, and that they would rather be focusing on PvP. I'll leave a link to the video below. If you have seen that video, you know that I'm not really happy with the way that PvE was treated, and especially about the way that the Team 4 leadership has kind of been avoiding the conversation, both internally, well, up till recently, and now still with us, the community. On the other hand, I also explained in that video that the failure of the PvE project is not unique, and that it cannot be put on one single thing or one single person. It is just the classic game dev story. For projects of this size, or actually any size, the stars need to align, and in this case, they did not. The thing is, of course, once you start trimming the fat, you start cancelling projects, and most importantly, you start laying off people. It does need to come from a renewed vision. It must be done in hope of protecting and improving the core experience, which is of course PvE, and that seems to be the case with Overwatch. This year definitely started out a little rocky, but Season 9 has been one of the best, if not the best received season in Overwatch 2 history. While many people had their concerns and some even threatened to uninstall, most of them afterwards had to admit that healing passive for both DPS and tank wasn't that much of an issue, and that the whole PvE refresh has been refreshing. Lately, Blizzard has also been very responsive, both in their communication and in their actions. The Season 9 mid-season patch did correct some of the issues that stem from the PvE refresh, but they also created some new issues. Moga. But those were corrected within a week. And sure, you could ask yourself, why do they do these changes if they're going to roll them back later? But that is game development. That's simply how it works. There's always going to be people that would have loved to see other changes. We all tend to look at this game through a prism of our personal experience. But overall, I'm seeing and hearing a lot of positive sentiment, especially after that latest developer update. The fact that they're going back to this old video format shows that they want to keep that conversation open. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love a good piece of literature, but let's be honest, nobody ever reads the blog posts or the patch notes. And then it's up to us content creators to translate that into other content, which is completely our pleasure. With Aaron goofing off on a video and dropping good news, joining in on a stream to have a very open conversation with a content creator, that brings back memories of Overwatch 1. And I'm glad that they're starting to realize that that is working. And I'm even more glad, or gladder, that doesn't sound right, that they have good news to share, because that is not obvious. But more about that in a second. And don't get me wrong, I do want them to bring the bad news too. It needs to happen, like the cancellation of PvE. But it is also very nice to see them list so many things that were actually inspired by feedback from the community. That developer blog that we saw this week was more than a marketing tool. It was a line in the sand. There's a lot going on right now within the Overwatch team, and some of it can be traced back to the Activision Blizzard to Microsoft story, but it is way more complicated and nuanced than we think. Yet, I do think that there's an element of liberation in there. Liberation of that corporate red tape. The liberation from shareholder focus, and the liberation of their own ambitions. Now, I do think Team 4 is still very ambitious, but the death of PvE will allow them to focus on that core experience, as I said at the start of this video. And that's where it all started. That is the main feature. No matter how hard it is for us lore fans and people that enjoyed PvE, this is going to push the game into that next phase. A phase that some people call Overwatch 2. Well, it was actually flat. Well, yeah, I've been calling it Overwatch 2.5, but flats outdid me with Overwatch 3, so I guess that's where we're going with. And while that is not a real product, they're not really making Overwatch 3, to be clear. It's more of a philosophical idea. This is going to be the Overwatch that is being built by the fans, for the fans, with the input of the community. Overwatch 2 was a little more of their own vision. And now we are in the next phase. Making PvP the best it can be. You know, you gotta admire that they have the will and the balls to kind of step out of the comfort zone, because this is risky, but it could also be a lot of fun. And that's why we're seeing all of these new balancing changes, refreshes, hero reworks, map reworks. We never had this amount of changes within the game and big reshuffles of heroes and maps ever. But it seems it also comes from a necessity, because this might be the last chance for Overwatch. According to Jason Schreier from Bloomberg, the Overwatch team did not not hit their financial targets in the last year and a half. And as a result, the team did not get their bonuses. They get 2 bonuses a year, one in March and one in August. And those bonuses are to help them out because generally people at Blizzard get paid less than they do at other companies. So that bonus is actually part of their normal pay. And that's one of the reasons that they canceled PvE and that so many people got fired. So all these changes that we're seeing right now, this new phase comes from both a will to change, but also a need. You know what? That's fine. Being optimistic is not about being scared that something bad is going to happen. There's still going to be updates and stuff that happens that will generally piss us off. Pardon my French, I had to censor myself. The optimism here is about seeing a path forward. A clear path that is not divided between too many topics, but that has one laser vision. It is progress. And in the end for us, we need to understand that this is just a game. We need to have fun with the game. If we don't have fun, I think it is time to move on. But for now, that was it. A huge thank you to my Patreons. I could not make these videos without you guys. Nothing but eternal gratitude. And check out this video about upcoming map changes in Overwatch 2. Alright, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye-bye.